am joined by my broadcast partner and the birthday boy for today, the gentleman Josh Hill, for another edition of Jason and the Gentleman. Josh, how are you doing? And first and foremost, happy birthday.
Thank you, man. Thanks. I'm good. I feel another year older, which sucks. but I'm good, man. Everything's good.
Haven't had yourself a good birthday, spending the day with the fam?
Yeah, pretty much. Just like a regular day. But no, it's been good. We had, family dinners and whatnot, and then me and my wife are gonna go away for a night, which will be a nice break, relaxing. But yeah, everything's good. It's been a good birthday.
No birthday presents coming from Bellator yet with potential fight announcements?
No, not yet, man. Not yet. I'm still like, hopefully something gets planned in the future, like we talk about. But yeah, I'm still not fully back to regular training yet, so there's no rush.
All right. Well, you know what? First and foremost, more importantly, happy birthday. But Josh, it was a pretty jam-packed weekend of mixed martial arts, pretty much from last Tuesday on up until even Sunday, as a lot of these promotions are trying to get their events in because it's going to be a slow week this week with American Thanksgiving on Thursday, followed by Black Friday and all that. But the piece de resistance, the highlight of the weekend, was the UFC's return to pay-per-view with UFC 255. It was the highlight of the flyweight division for both men's and women, and I'd say this pay-per-view really did, a good job of, making that division seem extra crispy, extra sizzle to it, especially with the main event for the men's flyweight title, as Deiveson Figueiredo not only defended the flyweight championship, got it done in about 2 minutes or so, choking out the likes there of Perez. And you know what, Josh? This division's come back in such big ways, and Deiveson Figueiredo is a big part of that. But what a performance by him!
Yeah, it was a great fight. Only lasted 2 minutes, like you said. But even in that 2 minutes, man, that Alex Perez looked really good up until the guillotine choke, and it wasn't even a fault of his own. It just the way Figueiredo pulled it off. It was just really slick. So credit to him, man. He looked amazing. But yeah, Perez looked really good too. All the flyweights on that card, it showed why it's such an exciting division that should have never even had a thought of going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a big part of why this division has now, gotten the play is just the work that Figueiredo's done. Like this year alone, he's been putting in the work. Like sure, in February, he could have been the flyweight champion from then on, missed the weight, but redeemed himself on Fight Island, made the weight and beat Joseph Benavidez again, and now puts away Alex Perez and will be fighting in December. So a 21-day, a less than 3-week turnaround to fight for the title. And I think, Figueiredo with a win in December would probably be fighter of the year more than likely. But, he's just really risen this flyweight division from the ashes.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I think he's great. He looks like a killer in there. And there's a reason why he's the champ. But like I heard some people saying like, well, this is what the flyweight division needed. You needed a killer that is going to get some eyes on there. I'm like, yeah, we had that with DJ. You know what I mean? You had that. I mean, imagine a fight. If Figueiredo continued his rise like he did, imagine DJ was still the champ. Imagine that fight. How cool that would have been, right?
Yeah, that would have been the ultimate dream fight, especially with, just kind of the power. And if you get in a submissions predicament with Figueiredo, he can get you out of there quickly. But it's just the gamesmanship and the smart tactical style that Mighty Mouse Johnson would bring that makes that such an interesting fight. But unfortunately, it probably won't happen because both men are different promotions, and we know how the UFC kind of feels about Mighty Mouse now in one. But yeah, this performance was really impressive, Josh, because he got that choke just really out of nowhere because it looked like Perez finally got the takedown. But once Figueiredo gets you in these guillotines, it's over. Like I haven't seen a 125er with this much power in quite a while.
Yeah, that squeeze, man. Because even when I was watching it, I thought, usually when you see the hairline, when you're doing a guillotine, you always say if you see a lot of that hairline, usually the guy's gonna slip out, or might as well let it go because you're gonna burn out your arms. And I seen that. I'm like, I think he's gonna get out of this. It doesn't really look like it's in, but he still managed, man, to get that squeeze in there and finish it off. Not even. I mean, it was obviously deep, but didn't look as deep as I thought it would need it to be to get the finish. But yeah, man, he had he locked it up quick and got the win. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I thought Perez was going to get out, but was once he postured back up and kind of readjusted himself,
Yeah.
wrapping his legs around Perez, that was pretty much what did him in. But it's just the power that this little guy has. Like, you don't
Yeah.
see that from this division often.
Yeah, I know he cuts a tremendous amount of weight. So hopefully that is sustainable for him, and it's not gonna kill him in the long run. And I know he's missed weight before. Hopefully that doesn't continue or happen again. But yeah, he's got that power for sure. He's a big 25er, and his biggest thing I think is his confidence, man. He'll walk through whatever anybody's throwing at him, and he'll just kind of throw whatever at. He doesn't hold back anything, and I think that comes with his confidence.
Well, and then now he will come in and save the day for the UFC for their December pay-per-view. Once again, putting his title on the line against a man that looked really well in the feature prelims in Brandon Moreno with his first round submission or TKO victory over Brandon Royval. And, Moreno was a guy that felt disrespected, thought he should have had the title shot. Well, he punched his ticket, both figuratively and literally, getting himself the opportunity in December. And most importantly for me, the eyes of the MMA world get to stay on this 125-pound division.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I was wondering why they're doing it such a quick turn. That doesn't ever happen, but I seen that Sterling and Jan's off now, so that's kind of filling in its place. But yeah, that's awesome, man. Both guys came out obviously pretty relatively unscathed from the fight, no real injuries. So they're gonna get right back at it in 3 weeks time, and that's a good fight. I think Moreno's a tough, like just that scrappy, tough kid that's durable everywhere. And key to victory for him is to bring it in the later rounds. He has to survive early in the first and second round, and he's got to get into that third, fourth, and fifth. And I think then he can have a chance to either win the decision or get the TKO or a submission. But early on, I think he's in some danger with Figueiredo.
Yeah, for sure, because what we've seen from Figueiredo, especially those last two fights, where he'll just come up there, blitz you, either hit you hard, drop you, or if you just leave your neck out there or a limb, you're going to sleep or getting or tapping out. Whereas, Moreno, we know he's tough, durable, but he hasn't had a finish since June of 2019, and that was even before he went in the UFC. I guess this does count as a finish, though. It was a TKO, as Moreno did dislocate his shoulder, but more importantly, though, he gets the fight that he wanted, as he kind of felt disrespected. He wasn't going to get it. Because remember, it was originally supposed to be Cody Garbrandt, but now it's Moreno. So, good for the flyweight division because, like I said, the eyes get kept on it. Such a quick turnaround that you won't forget about him. And there's just so much potential now for that division as that's just starting to stack themselves up as we head into 2021.
Yeah, I think like you said, it just makes the division way more exciting. I think you got the Moreno and Figueiredo, and then I mean Cody. I'm probably you're gonna give him a title shot when he comes back, but if not, I would like to see him fight Perez. That'd be a cool one. And then winner of that, or maybe if Cody wins that, he gets the title shot. But there's lots of different matchups now that you can make in that top 5 in that division.
Yeah, hopefully Cody's okay. I've seen the reports out that because he apparently had COVID, and he's suffering from blood clots, and that's something we've never really thought about with the effects of COVID because
yeah, I think that was a little fishy writing there. I think that is I know Cody, he did have COVID and had some symptoms and shit from it, but he tore something in his arm, and I think that was what initiated blood clots actually. I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I know he's out cycling and he's training, not fully yet, but I know the media likes to run with stuff and make it sound a lot worse than it is.
Well, I know he did tear. That was what put him out, was the torn bicep, and it did look pretty bad when he posted that Instagram post. But who knows if that is related or whatnot? But we don't know the effects as well from coming back from COVID because the doctors do say there is some effects lingering in your lungs and whatnot. I mean, we haven't seen it. He hasn't been able to fight since he fought this past summer, so hopefully nothing too serious because that is an exciting name down at 125, a former bantamweight champion going down 125 and potentially could be another double champion in the UFC.
Yeah, for sure. If Cody can and go down there and make that weight and make the weight, but feel good and still, have that speed and power and movement and cardio to go 3 or 5 rounds. So, I hopefully I love to see him go down there. I want to see him do well. So it should be an interesting.
Well, as well, to keep with the trend of the flyweights, the co-main event at UFC 255 was for the women's flyweight championship, and Valentina Shevchenko defended her title against Jennifer Maia, and it was a different style of domination from Shevchenko. We're used to seeing her, maybe get these opponents out of there, early with some strikes, a head kick, what have you. But she just fought, a real good grappling game plan and was able to hold Maia down for the majority of the fight. Like, she may have lost the second round and kind of made it interesting going into the third, but once it got close, Shevchenko just found a way to pull away and prove she's one of the best women's fighters in the world.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are said like, "Oh my God, like she's human." You know what I mean? Like of course. I think she was never. Yeah, she did lose the second round for sure, but she was never not have control of that fight really. She engaged in the wrestling and the grappling and the clinch work, and then in the second round, she actually put herself in a vulnerable position, got taken down, and pretty much held there for the rest of the round, and lost the round. But then in the third, fourth, and fifth, she kind of made the corrections, and then it was just smooth sailing from there. Credit to Maya though, like she was a gamer the whole fight and took a lot of punishment and kept coming. So you gotta admire her skill set and her will to win.
Yeah, I mean, she just knows how to get it done. And, kind of cool on this card that her and her sister Antonina became the first pair of sisters in UFC history to win on the same card, as Antonina Shevchenko had a real good, impressive win against Ariana Lipski on the prelims. But yeah, Shevchenko just, she can easily take some time off now. And, like, I think they're going to probably give her Jessica Andrade, who just moved down to 125, which fight, because Andrade could be another double champion going from strawweight now to 125, and she looked so good in her debut at 125 a couple months ago when she beat Caitlin Chukagian. So that does appeal like a very interesting fight.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, there's not a whole lot else for her in that division right now. Cynthia, was kind of on her way up for that title shot, but she lost to, I can never say her name,
Chukagian.
Chukagian, that's it. And yeah, so that kind of threw a wrench in there. Chukagian already fought Shevchenko. I mean, they're probably not going to give her another rematch off of this. You probably have to get another win or two. So yeah, that kind of leaves Andrade, and I know Lauren Murphy was she's, I think, has a 4-fight winning streak. She's probably most deserving as far as the work put in, but who knows? I think Andrade will probably get the call.
You know what? I am with you on the Lauren Murphy campaigning, because I think she's done a masterful job of marketing herself and proven a lot of valid facts on why she should be in line. She's had this long winning streak in this division. She's constantly pretty much been at 125 in the UFC, and she's lost to some girls by close decision that have eventually gotten title shots, and not only that weight class but others. But I think she's done a wonderful job at bringing herself out, especially with her social media presence and whatnot. I think she should definitely be considered in the running, especially for how long she's been there and whatnot. I just know the UFC is going to give it to Andrade because of the name and how she got the finish over who she got the finish over. Whereas Murphy got the win over someone that was a last-minute replacement, because that was supposed to be Cynthia Calvillo back at UFC 254 on Fight Island. So I'm for Lauren, though, to marketing herself, and I think we need more people like that in the UFC to do it, kind of like proving some facts and knocking down, like, just proving the rankings pretty much.
Yeah, those rankings that always are so accurate, right? I know. She's like, but that's the problem. She's like that workhorse type, blue collar fighter that gets in there, gets the job done. Not particularly too flashy or crazy or anything like that, but gets it done and gets wins. So yeah, I'm all for people like that climbing up the ladder and getting the shot, but we'll see what happens.
And it's podcasts like this that need to keep getting her name out there, because the way this sport works and the machine of it, you kind of get lost in not being fighting as actively as and whatnot. But we'll keep her name out there because she's definitely in the running. I don't think she'll get it, but if anything does happen to, per se, Andrade or whatever, you definitely could put her in the mix. I mean, Joanne Calderwood's still in there looking to get a fight. Maybe you make Murphy and Calderwood as a #1 contender fight.
Yeah, I mean that could definitely happen. I think that's Calderwood coming off the loss, who's supposed to have the title fight. So if she can bounce back and get a quick win, then she can sneak back in there, or Lauren Murphy can kind of cement her place as the number one contender.
Yeah, well, Josh, that was the co-main and the main, and the highlighting the flyweights. But this card had some other stuff. Mike Perry was on this card, and I don't know, like, what are your thoughts on Mike Perry? This is a guy that openly, purposely, pretty much missed weight and was seen not caring. He lost the unanimous decision to Tim Means, but do you think that's it we see from Mike Perry in the UFC?
No, no. uh, Yeah, the guy's obviously like a little fucked up, right? But he's an exciting fighter. You know what I mean? That missing weight on purpose is, you know, even like I seen him. One of his things he said was, "I came here to fight a fist fighter, not fight the scales or something like that." I'm like, okay, I get it. You know what I mean? But you signed a contract to fight at a certain weight. That's part of your job, man. That's what you got to do. And you're going to forfeit a lot of money to do it. I think it should even be more, especially when you come in knowing you're not going to make weight. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, as far as that, either just move up a weight class, man, or get some shit in check. Take a notes from Paul Felder, what he said about that. But yeah, as far as fighting style, he's got that power. He's an athlete. He's explosive. Technically, he's not the greatest. But like I said, he relies a lot on that explosiveness and his toughness and his tenacity and that power, which, if he hits you, you knock you out. But I think Tim Means, had a great game plan and just picks him apart. I had a 1 round apiece going into the third, and then I thought Tim Means just continued just picking him apart. I mean, Perry's a tough cat and it's hard to put away, but that's how I've seen the fight 29-28.
Yeah, I actually have to rewatch it because from what I saw, I actually thought Perry won the fight. I thought he
Really?
landed the better shots, maybe did a little more damage, but I definitely need to rewatch that third round again. I
Yeah.
just thought he won it, but the whole drama about Perry, every time he fights, there's some sort of drama, whether it's outside the cage or this time it was, him literally on video eating burgers and pizza when he's in the middle of a weight cut for a fight camp. And then he goes on Twitter saying, I'm not going to make it, and I tried to get a fight at middleweight. I mean, that's great and all, but at least show the respect that you're going to make a valiant effort to make 170 pounds.
Yeah, he's like a car accident, man. You drive by it and you have to look. People want to see it just because it's so you never know what the hell you're gonna see, right? So and then that's kind of Mike Perry.
And I think that's kind of why the UFC is keeping him around, because he
Yeah,
does create some buzz and there is interest because he kind of has that heel pro wrestling mentality
yeah,
where you want to watch him just to get beat. A lot of the fan base I see, or the people that can relate to some of his outside the cage situations that support him. Who knows, whatnot. But I'm with you. I don't think this is the end for Mike Perry in the UFC
no.
because he is coming off a win before this Means fight.
Yeah. He's kind of exactly. He's got that heel. He kind of has like that Phil Baroni kind of attitude that kind of reminds me of, you know what I mean? But he's definitely they're gonna keep him around and they'd have to. I think they'd have to get rid of him. It has to be like 3 losses in a row to get rid of him.
Maybe 7 with Perry.
Yeah.
They tend to keep some of those guys around. But we kind of talked about Caitlin Chukagian, her big win at women's flyweight over Cynthia Calvillo. But the pay-per-view opened with Paul Craig avenging a tough draw against Shogun Rua. I thought Paul Craig looked great, was able to get Shogun Rua to tap to strikes. Like, that's a huge feather in your cap. And, it's a great win up the ladder for Craig and Scottish MMA and moving him up at the light heavyweight ranks. But you think this is the end for Shogun, Josh? Because it seems like those wars have finally caught up with him.
Yeah, you know what? Before this, I would have said no, but he looked like shit, man. He did not look good, and I'm a huge Shogun fan. I love Shogun, but yeah, I don't know. He said he was injured, had some injury. I don't know how much that played into it, but yeah, he didn't look good. The whole fight didn't look good. He got taken down pretty easily, and then got mounted from the back, and then flattened out and finished and tapped his strikes, which it just goes to show he was just kind of done. He was out of there. So I don't know, man. I'm just kind of selfish and I want to see him fight. Maybe give him another one just to see if that for sure was maybe just a bad night or was it, kind of the end of an era.
Yeah, well, he does apparently have 2 more fights on his UFC deal, so it'd be interesting to see what happens next fight out, because they're going to try to fulfill that at least, or if they cut him, it'd be with one left. So with two, they're probably going to give him one more. Yeah. And I hope it's because of an injury, because, Shogun's a name that I still think can do something, at least one more show before he himself calls it a career. And I'd rather have Shogun call him a career than someone force him to retire.
Yeah, of course. Like anybody, right? I want to see him, even if it's a loss. I want to see it, him go out like he can, and like just on a shield, and just say it himself. This is my last hurrah, and I'm doing it. But yeah, I like to see him again. Just like I said, hopefully it was just a shitty camp, shitty displays, shitty night. But he's only 40 years old, but he's been around, man. Like I remember watching him before I even thought of training. You know what I mean? And he was the up and comer in Pride and stomping guys, and it was he was a killer, man. And he's looked good in the last couple of years, even too. Like for a guy that his age and his experience, but he's got a lot of miles in that body, and eventually they it comes to an end.
Yeah, it's definitely winding down the Shogun Express, but I would maybe like to see one more. But yeah, he definitely looked really lethargic and slow. So hopefully that was more injury and not just him totally just past his prime. And only a few more things on this show that I want to talk to you about. I don't know if you saw Joaquin Buckley's performance on the prelims, Josh, but this is a guy the UFC's ready to launch in the stratosphere. Like not a super highlight reel level knockout, but a devastating one over an undefeated fighter in the Beverly Hills Ninja, Jordan Wright, to hand him his first loss.
Beverly Hills Ninja, it's a cool name. Yeah, they hyped him up so much with that knockout, right? I've seen it. I don't mean how many times I've seen it posted and in the lead up to the fight, but which is cool. It's something to use, right? But yeah, this guy he lived up to it for sure. What definitely wasn't a one kind of fluky kick type thing. This guy's got some serious power and he's explosive and got some tricks. And yeah, that was a nice. I think it was a left hook or a right hook. I can't remember, but came over the top and dropped him, and then. He looked good, man, and yeah, he's a guy that I think after those two back-to-back, they'll probably give him somebody with a fairly decent name, but not too crazy. Kind of build him up a little bit, and then kind of see where it takes him from there.
Well, he called out James Krause, and apparently those two have some beef. Yeah. They're both from Missouri, both from the St. Louis area, so it seems like maybe that's the path they want to go. That's the guy Buckley wants to fight. Krause has been talking a lot of smack about Buckley on the internet, so. UFC loves that. That's just instant matchmaking for them. And if that's 3 in a row for Buckley, talk about a guy that's just risen through the ranks from a dude that was just happy to be on an LFA show at the start of this year.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's such a rise. Krause would be a good name, to be honest. Isn't he's a weight class lower though, isn't he not? A 70 or 55 or even?
Well, the thing is, Buckley can make the cut down to 170. He has had a handful of fights at 170. Most of his career's been at 185, but if he wanted to maybe one-off go to 170 just to get that fight, he could cut the 15 pounds and make the 170-pound limit.
Well, if they could do it at 70, that would be great. Krause would be a good name. Krause is really good. But he's not, that top, obviously not top 5. I don't know if he's maybe top 10, if he's ranked in there or not. Again, the rankings don't really matter, but he's a big enough name and a tough enough opponent where a win over him would definitely be, it's already eye-opening, but it would be a big, feather in his cap.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're calling out the person with a little bit vigor in your tone. I'm excited for it, and I'm just excited to see the growth, because it's always exciting to see someone that's worked their way through some of these shows, and we're just a local fighter on the Bellator prelims and stuff like that, to finally start to make waves in the sport. That's why you follow these guys and get so involved in this sport.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about it. I've seen it. Amongst my peers, that guys that I've been on cards with that were on undercards below me. Now they're huge names, and we see it. We're going to be seeing it even more when we do our BTC shows and commentating there. And I'm sure we're guys that we've called that are going to go on to do some big things. So I like seeing that kind of shit and kind of seeing them grow from the ground up.
It makes it worthwhile. And the last thing I want to talk about UFC 255. I don't know. Did you see the opening fight between Sasha Paletnikov and Louis Corsi? Because holy smokes, this was an unbelievable fight. At least the first round is easily a round of the year candidate because Corsi nearly finished Paletnikov, and then Paletnikov just came back and unloaded. It was just rock'em sock'em robots. Both were unloading their best shots. For Paletnikov was able to get the ground and pound in the third round and hand Louis Corsi his first loss as a pro.
I came in halfway through this fight and I got to see just the kind of the tail end of it, and there was the one where he was kind of on his knees and he was punching him from both sides of the head. Yeah, that's where I seen the finish. But I heard, I watched some of the highlights after, and I heard it was a super fight. Is that the one he's a twin brother? Is that the kid, the guy?
Yes. So his brother was supposed to be on this card, but he got hurt. So Louis started it out.
It'd be cool to, now fight him and then I go fight the brother.
Exactly.
Either redemption or wipe out both of the brothers. It'd be kind of cool and a little bit more dramatic, right?
Yeah, for sure. But I think for Louis Corsi, this is the best thing for him. This is a guy that, coming into this fight had finished every fight in the first round. And sometimes you just rest on your laurels like, oh, I'm going to hit you hard in the first. You're going to go down, and that's going to be it. But when Paletnikov didn't go away, you kind of saw Corsi kind of break a bit, and you I got to find this extra reserve in me. And he did for a while and was able to push it to the third round, but Paletnikov had been there and has gone, the distance and gotten finishes in any other round he's been in. And that was, I think, the biggest thing for him and why he was able to get the win. But for Corsi, though, a guy getting a contract in the Contender Series, this was, I think, the best thing for him in the future with the UFC.
Yeah, like we always talk about, guys will definitely learn a lot from it. And like you said, all those first round finishes, it's that balance play, right? If you're going to put everything into your punches in that first round, you got to be certain that you're going to finish them or have enough gas to go those 3 rounds. But some guys, they tend to especially if you got them hurt too a little bit, and then you just empty the tank and unload, and it doesn't happen. Then you kind of, you get that mind check, like, oh shit, I'm in trouble. I got 10 more minutes to go here, and I'm out of juice. So that's where you learn as a fighter and you grow from it, and you kind of change your ways a little bit, but for the better, and you become smarter.
What was that experience like for you? Because I remember you saying when you had your first fight, you were just throwing everything you had, and then obviously you've progressed to the point where you know when to pick your shots and whatnot. But I just can't imagine what that fatigue factor is, especially when the guy across from me is trying to knock my head off.
Yeah, I think I got lucky in the sense where I learned it in my first ever fight. I unloaded everything I had in that first round, and then going into the second round, and then unloading again in the second round, literally emptying your tank. And then the guy's still standing, and then I was like, oh my god! But luckily I was able to finish it right after that. But like I said, it made me learn. Okay, I gotta make some reservations. I gotta pick my shots a little better. I gotta use my power at certain times and hold back at some times. So I learned it pretty early, which some guys don't learn till a little bit later.
Yeah, and I think Corsi is now one of those guys learning it a little bit later, but still young. So, and as we say, a loss in this sport, especially your first one, isn't the worst thing. So that was UFC 255, Josh. And, moving on to the December pay-per-view, as we'll get into, we kind of talked about, the flyweight main event, and, the eyes are still on that. But they did announce a real exciting fight for that pay-per-view. Coming in, to save the day is Tony Ferguson taking on Charles do Bronx, which I just think is an awesome fight at lightweight. It's not going to maybe sell a lot of pay-per-views. I mean, Ferguson does have somewhat of a name, and I think a lot of people don't know how good Olivera is, but this is just going to be an absolute war.
Yeah, these guys are to me, kind of mirror images of each other. They're very similar, even their body types, the way they fight, their funky finishes on the ground, their striking. So that makes this fight, very interesting. And especially where they are right now. Tony was on the biggest run ever, and then now he's coming off a loss where he took a lot of damage. And then Olivera, I think, is on a 6-fight win streak or some shit like that.
Well, he's coming off a huge win, right? Literally right before the UFC had to make that stop because of COVID, where he was able to get the win, a third-round guillotine over Kevin Lee. But yeah, he's been able to been on a run. His last loss was to Felder back in
Yeah.
December of 2017. So that's like 8 or 9 fights in a row he's won.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why he's on a different level, and he's full of confidence. He's on a roll. So the the shape of where they're at too, coming off of it, it plays a big factor. So that one's good, man. That fight could go so many different ways. It's hard to. I could see knockouts. I could see Darces. I could see guillotines. I see rear naked chokes. I could see a really bloody brawl too. So that's an exciting fight.
I think people forget, like, we all know how good on the ground Olivera is, but as you said, he can get into those slugfests and make it interesting. The Kevin Lee fight was kind of like that, but look at the names that Olivera has beaten since he's gone on this run. So after he lost to Paul Felder, he beat Clay Guida, then he beat Christias Giagos. He choked out Jim Miller. Anaconda choked David Tamer. Right cross ground and pound finish over Nick Lentz, a TKO over Jared Gooden, and then the Kevin Lee finish. I mean, he's beat some top guys in the UFC, and I think people forget just how good he is. He's been in the UFC a long time. He's had his ups and downs, and right now he's peaking at the right time.
Yeah, exactly. He's been on the road, man. He's been in there and he's done it, but now he's kind of, everybody kind of has that, that time where they kind of just soar up and they're peaking. Like you said, they're in their prime. Everything's kind of firing all cylinders, and that's when they're at their best. And I think he's there right now.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited about this co-main event. I think it's it's not the best pay-per-view, but it's, UFC has to get this out of the way before they head towards, a major fight night on December 19th, and then they start their pay-per-view runs with Conor and Gaethje, or not Conor and Gaethje, Conor and Dustin Poirier before the New Year starts. But yeah, that's a big fun little stretch there on a pay-per-view that doesn't have much name power, but I think some real exciting fights.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, I think it's a fight night actually. The one after that is ram-packed with a killer card. It looks better than a pay-per-view card, I think. But yeah, I mean, Ferguson Olivera is a fight enough in itself where I would want to tune into that.
Yeah, the fight night on December 9th, like 14 fights, and it's all for free. Main evented by Chimaev, Leon Edwards. I mean, we'll get to this in time, but just like some of the talent, like Stephen Thompson, Jeff Neal, Marlon Moraes back on the horse quickly against Rob Font, Misha Serkinov. I mean, Chito Vera, Jose Aldo. I'm very excited for that one.
Yeah, man. That's what I was saying. There's some killer fights on that card. It's stacked.
I mean, this is literally the best Christmas gift the UFC could give us. So I'm excited for that. They do have a card this weekend. One of the only real shows on with heavyweights. Always make it interesting. Curtis Blaydes, Derrick Lewis. This, I think, is the right fight for Curtis Blaydes. A win over Lewis. He does put himself in that hunt for a title shot. But, Lewis is a guy that still keeps, grinding away, and easily the hardest puncher in the UFC's history.
Yeah, it's a fight where Blaydes just has to rely on what he's good at, and he'll get the win, I think. Avoid the power, wrestle, grapple. Make it a cardio battle of attrition, and it's probably going to be a little ugly. He'll make it, he'll slow it down. But that's what you have to do against a guy like Lewis, who can hit you with one shot and be lights out. So I think that's what'll happen. But I'm always cheering for Lewis, man. That guy's hilarious. I love that guy. So I'm hoping he lands the punch.
The thing with Lewis is, like, his wrestling has gotten better, but he's going to get taken down, and his cardio is surprisingly good for a guy that you think would be blown up midway through the second round each and every time, and he just has that ability of the punch, because we remember it in the Volkov fight where he was going to lose a decision easily, and then he was able to, just couple shots, and Volkov was done, earned himself a title shot off that, and, he just keeps getting better and better, does Derrick Lewis. And as you said, he's super exciting. That win over, the veteran from Russia in Oleinik back in the summer, huge. So I'm excited for it. I think for Blaydes, though, he needs a finish, because the UFC was not impressed with how his performance was. It was a win. A win's a win. But if you just hold someone down for 5 rounds, that's not exciting TV, and that's not an exciting fight. So for Blaydes, he does have knockout power. If he gets it over Lewis, I think you definitely have to put him in the stratosphere. But he needs to use his wrestling. But if he gets the finish, that would be better for him.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, the finish is always better. That's where it's going to kind of have to be like that balancing point for him, I think, in this fight, where he has to really, nullify the striking and use his wrestling and grappling for his advantage, but try to get the finish as well, but without trying to get too reckless on the feet and getting knocked out. So it's that, that balance point of where he wants to be really let go and be exciting. So, I mean, he could definitely get it. He gets that, maybe the TKO on the ground or, a submission. I don't see him getting on the feet. I mean, things can happen, but I just don't see it happening. But yeah, it's a tough, the road to walk. You kind of got to balance that.
Yeah, it's also tough for Blaydes because this is a guy that has not one but two losses to Francis Ngannou, who's
Mm.
arguably the number one contender in line. So if you want to leapfrog him, you need something like spectacular. Like you need a Joaquin Buckley type finish
Yeah.
over Derrick Lewis, which I still don't see happening. But we all know probably Ngannou's next in line for the title shot, and he's getting angry and antsy, wants to have that shot with Stipe. But that is definitely something that'll happen down the line.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I could see it. It'd be, Francis lost to Stipe, but his last three fights have been like devastating knockouts. So it's just proven that he's the killer again that he always was. But yeah, Stipe kind of showed the blueprint of how to beat him with the just wrestle the shit out of him. And then I think with the fight with Lewis, he's coming off a loss. He was tentative. He's holding back a bit. Didn't want to risk much. And sometimes after a loss, it might do that. So, but he's found that fire again, and it's more so he's pulling the trigger again more so.
Yeah, I think the best way to look at how devastating Ngannou's is, obviously he's had those wins, but he's fought once in 2020 for a total combined time of 10 seconds. So
Yeah.
you can see why he really wants to get back in there. Won't happen in the rest of this year, but he's definitely getting that title shot whenever Stipe is ready. And that's kind of been the problem with that division. They've kind of had to wait around for DC and Stipe, and now Stipe is totally the guy, but he's been kind of banged up.
Yeah, yeah. So I would assume probably February, March, but we'll see.
Yeah, we definitely will see. Moving on though from the UFC, Josh, this past Thursday, Bellator had one of their better shows once again, and highlighted by this featherweight Grand Prix. We keep talking about how great it is, and we keep talking about A.J.McKee being one of the top stars in not only Bellator but in mixed martial arts, and he proved and then some, getting that McKeeatine is what he's calling it in like
Yeah.
a minute and 11 seconds over Darrion Caldwell to advance to the finals of the featherweight Grand Prix, and you just can't say how impressive and how great of a talent he is. Like every time I see McKee, he gets better and better and is more exciting and becomes more must watch for Bellator.
Yeah, man, he's good, dude. He's really good. I mean, I was wondering, like we talked about beforehand, I was wondering how he would deal with the wrestling of Caldwell and Caldwell's top position and grind him out and the ground and pound. But yeah, he pulled off this, what caused that more so, that setup was just from the damage on the ground, not just being settled there and not just playing jiu-jitsu game. He was elbowing from the bottom and really making it really uncomfortable for Caldwell being on top. And then Caldwell put his head off to the side. Usually when you do that, guys start looking for guillotines, maybe looking for Kimuras, but he kind of went with this weird, McKeeatine, wherever he called it. You don't see it very often, but the way Caldwell's head was positioned, he used it as almost like a neck crank, keeping his head under there and rising up on the shoulder. At first, I thought it was a shoulder, but it looks like it might have been a shoulder neck. I'm not sure. But anyways, it put a lot of pressure up in his shoulder neck trap area, and it was enough to get the tap, which was pretty crazy.
Well, whatever it was, it looked absolutely uncomfortable as all hell for Darrion Caldwell, hence why he had to tap within a minute and 11 seconds. But, I mean, we keep talking about how good this featherweight Grand Prix has been, and it's a shame there was this thing called COVID and this pandemic, because we could be at the end of this tournament heading into 2021, and, Bellator has now one more semifinal fight with Emmanuel Sanchez and Patricio Pitbull, but they're on the verge of potentially having one of the biggest fights they've had with McKee and Pitbull for the featherweight title in the finals. I mean, it's just the picture-perfect way that Bellator could have imagined how this tournament had gone.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to get through
Sanchez.
Sanchez, yeah, Sanchez first. I mean, Sanchez is a tough cat. He's durable as hell. He's not an easy fight for anybody in that division. So that would be a major upset, and it would throw, ruffle a lot of feathers if he ends up beating Pitbull and becoming the champ and then going to the finals. But if Pitbull does get through Sanchez, I think that's a they couldn't ask for anything better, to be honest. They got their undefeated superstar that they're building up. That's homegrown, like literally homegrown. He started in Bellator's career, and now he's 16 or 17-0 against their most dominant champion and probably their biggest name in the promotion right now. So I couldn't think you can't ask for a better finale if that happens.
No, for sure. And I think the thing for Bellator, it's two guys that built their, as you said, McKee's homegrown, but so's Pitbull. We all forget about that. Like, yes, he had some fights in Brazil, but everyone knows he went through like the Bjorn Rebney days of Bellator and stuff like that. So I think that's what makes it more interesting, and it's worth, getting CBS Sports Network if you don't have it in the States, or get DAZN in Canada just to see one of the best fights that potentially will happen. But as you said, Sanchez has to be there. And the way MMA works is when we're starting to look ahead at fights and tournaments, the upset happens. Like last year, we were all focused on Sarah Kaufman, Kayla Harrison for the PFL in the women's lightweight final. And, well, Sarah got upset and lost. So took a little bit of the luster out. And that can happen, especially with how durable Sanchez is.
Yeah, very, very easily. I mean, that's what's so cool. And that's why we watch it, right? But it's, Pitbull's is a tough task, and it'll be a hard fight for Sanchez, but he could do it, man.
Yeah, I mean, we're all excited to see where this grows, and I'm just loving how this tournament has worked out. And the other fight I thought was interesting. Another guy that's really building his name through Bellator is Jason Jackson. Had a big unanimous decision win over Benson Henderson, and Benson maybe one of those guys like Shogun heading towards the end of his career as a in-cage fighter, but Jason's just found this other gear in Bellator and becoming a real force at 170. That's now 3 fights in a row he's won at 170 pounds in Bellator, and putting himself in title contention.
Yeah, that's a huge win for him. I wish Henderson would stay at 55. I just think he's too small for 170, and it showed in that fight. Even at the weigh-ins, I'm like, man, this guy's way bigger than him. Yeah. And it definitely played a factor in the fight. But yeah, that's a huge win for him. 3 fights in a row. That's and a guy like Ben Henderson is a huge name. So that guy's on the right path for some big marquee name and maybe a chance at the title.
Yeah, I do want to ask you about this, Josh, because you're someone that's fought on this little fight sphere that Bellator has. Well, Jason Jackson's coaches, Henry Hooft and Greg Jones, may get some fines from the Connecticut State Athletic Commission because, well, they weren't following the COVID protocols. And as someone that's been in there, how tight was the protocol? What was it like? Like, give us an experience of someone that's been in there.
I wonder what they were going to get fined for, because basically before your fight, it's pretty strict, I guess. Until you get your test results back, it's not until then you can actually go out. And when you do go out to go to the casino or anywhere in the resort, it's good to go get your food or whatever, and then come right back to your room, or you can go into the designated workout area, and that's pretty much it. So I'm assuming maybe they just kind of just said, fuck this, and went off and did their own thing, maybe, and then just got busted by somebody from the commission. Because usually if it's somebody from the promotion, they just be like, hey guys, go back or whatever. But I don't know. I didn't hear what actually happened, but this whole coach.
Well, apparently Henry Hooft didn't even do his COVID test. So he was just wandering out there without a COVID test. So I don't know how, once you get there, is the COVID test the first thing that happens? How does someone avoid the COVID test in this bubble?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when I got there, we went straight to our room. And then we woke up, and it was the next morning I got my COVID test. And then I couldn't leave the room until later that night when I got my test results back. And then once I got the back, I was cleared to actually go out and leave the room and whatnot. So maybe the time they got in, they missed the testing or whatever. I have no idea, but usually that's one of the first priorities.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing that sucks though for both Henry Hooft and Greg Jones is it's a 3-month suspension, and these commissions tend to work together. Mm-hmm. And with the talent that Hooft trains and stuff, he may not be able to be in some of his fighters in the UFC and whatnot. So that my little step, or choosing not to do a COVID test, may affect not just him but a bunch of fighters that rely on him in the corner.
Yeah, I mean, if that happens, that sucks for sure, man. I don't know the circumstances of what happened, if it was intentional or it was miscommunication, or if the commission just being douchey. I don't know. But from when I was there, like the commission seemed pretty good. I mean, they got it set up pretty good there, and they, they've done so many shows and they have a pretty tight protocol of what they're doing. That it's not like crazy, you know what I mean? So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I've heard though that commission there at Mohegan Sun is kind of strict in some aspects. Like they had a Brandon Gertz was fighting at featherweight earlier and weighed in at 146, and the commission made him get back on because they said it was 145, but acted like it was a title fight and were very rude to Gertz. Like they apologized to him the day after, but it just seems like from what I've heard and some of the stuff I've seen this year, it seems like a pretty strict commission. So I don't know how this incident could be totally avoided.
Yeah, I mean, from when I was there, from what I've dealt with, it was just like any other commission, to be honest. You know what I mean? I didn't really notice them being overly strict or just kind of a shit show like I've some commissions I've been to. But it was, I mean, commissions are commissions. I mean, they're regulated things, and sometimes people are douches and they get power tripping a little bit, and because they have some authority, which like a shitty cop, you know what I mean? And so sometimes that happens, but from overall, it wasn't too bad.
Well, yeah, hopefully, though, like, it's nice to get the inside look at the Fight Sphere because we don't know. Like, I found this story kind of fascinating in how you just don't do your COVID test when I thought for sure that'd be one of the first things that is required when you go there. But what have you? I mean, Henry Hooft and Greg Jones, they got to pay the consequences for this. And, they're on a 3-month suspension and from Connecticut and maybe in other jurisdictions.
Yeah, that sucks. If they work together, which a lot of them do, they might carry it over to like wherever, Vegas or wherever the fight is, depending. But yeah, I mean, sucks for them.
Yeah, sucks for them. Definitely follow the rules. That's the name of the game. But that was pretty much the week that was, and looking ahead at some of these cards, especially the UFC with one of the major shows this upcoming week. But only a little bit of news. I mean, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, Josh, but Anderson Silva finally out of the UFC. And it's kind of sad because Bellator doesn't want him, PFL doesn't want him, even one FC or one championship doesn't want him. I guess that leaves only one spot: Anderson to return to Japan and fight for Rizin.
Yeah, you're probably right. Or he gets kind of persuaded into bare knuckle, but I don't see him doing that. It sucks. I mean, I think the reasoning why those people don't want him, where I think maybe if it was 2 or 3 years ago, I think they would jump all over him. They don't want to be known as like they're going to take over the leftovers of somebody that is 45 years old and is a legend, of course, but definitely way past his prime. And they're kind of trying to get away from that. You know what I mean? I know Bellator did that for years, or they would take ex-UFCers and try and use their marquee names, but they've kind of changed the game, and they're building up their own talent, like we're seeing, and I think that's a better route for them. It's cool to grab a name here and there for sure, but it sucks for Anderson though. I mean, he's kind of lost without a home right now, and I know he doesn't want to end his career like that. He wants to go out on his own terms, and going back to Japan where it all started could be it started in Brazil, but it could be a pretty cool thing for him.
I definitely see it happening. It's one of the places that makes sense. The only other thing I know probably we see next year is a boxing fight with Roy Jones Jr. Because when Anderson was in his prime, they always talked about, who would win in a boxing fight if it was just stand-up only, especially with the hand speed. But I think, someone's going to put on a fight like that. Like, heck, we got Roy Jones and Mike Tyson this upcoming Saturday on pay-per-view for whatever they're charging it for. So they'll have that down the line.
Yeah, I could see something like that happening too, like a big name or a former boxer coming out of retirement or something like that, or a guy that's on his kind of last legs. But yeah, Roy Jones would be a perfect one for him.
Yeah, well, that's the news, and I guess we're talking about one guy that's gone past his prime and right up. The last thing before I let you out of here, Josh, this past Sunday, a guy that's really been past his prime, the Undertaker, finally retired from the world of wrestling. I mean, way too long it should have been done, but he's, I guess, finally done as the Undertaker, and charging $1,000 a video on Cameo if you want a cameo from the Undertaker. But Josh, do you have any memories of the Undertaker? Because a legendary name and character in the realm of pro wrestling.
Oh yeah, I thought he was already done, to be honest, because I remember the last
Ride.
The last ride, the WrestleMania. I thought that was it, man, but I guess the last ride turned into the second last ride. Like what happens with all these guys, right? But Undertaker, man, I love Undertaker. He's been a staple forever, almost my whole life. I remember seeing him at Cops Coliseum back when I was like 8. All the lights go down, boom, the sound of the bell, which, I mean, he's just iconic. He probably has the best character ever, I would say. Definitely top amongst the top 5 in my books. But he's that guy that's been around, done that, and I think he just has the respect of every fan and wrestler, which is pretty rare.
I think it's amazing, though, how this character has evolved and gone on and was able to have the longevity of 30 years as the Undertaker, from literally ending the character at the show he debuted at. And, especially at the time he debuted, where everyone had a freaking gimmick of some sort, that normally had a lifespan of like 4 or 5 years where he was able to make a career out of it. It was just worked hand in hand. Part of, many great moments, some really great matches, but most of his career was just, the dead zombie. I'll always remember that, his battles with Yokozuna and whatnot. But the Attitude Era he took off. But yeah, it's a sad day for, I guess, his character finally going away. But, he was kind of kept going a little past his prime, and then it was getting real sad. And that's what you never want to be like, oh, you've really outstayed your welcome.
Yeah, of course. I've seen a couple of those matches, and he looked with the one with Reigns, and he just looked kind of horrible. And then he came back after he got in better shape and he looked better. And then of course the last ride they could actually cut shots, and it's a lot easier for him. But it's definitely time to hang him up. I'm sure he'll do some cameo pop-up appearances here and there, which everybody will love. But as far as the career wise, it's good to call it.
Yeah, he'll be making a fortune at conventions and cameo. He's like I said, he's charging $1,000 a cameo video. So like if you want him to say like hey to you or something or whatever message, you're dropping $1,000 for the Undertaker. So he makes sure your bank account rests in peace. Well, Josh, that's gonna wrap it up for this week. As I said, it's a pretty light week in MMA, but when we get back next week, we'll break that all down and a preview the week ahead. So before I let you go, once again, plug yourself out there, and once again, happy birthday, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Not getting any younger here. I gotta get back in the horse and get in there and enjoy my time while I can. At Gentleman J Hill, as always, and everybody share the videos and like our videos and get us out there, and we'll keep making more of these things, man. It's fun doing them. So, and it's we're always talking about MMA shit anyway. So it's it's just something we do.
Yeah, for sure. Like, rate, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. We'll be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel, for another episode of Jason and the Gentleman.